We also had a message from the same boy who apologized for what he did. He said he didn't have a gun, and apologized to the public for, you know, what he said on that particular public platform. But I sat there and I watched his apology, and I couldn't help but ask myself, who should be apologizing to the other? Should he be the one apologizing to us? But should all of us who should be an age of, because that could have been your nephew, your son, your neighbor, and this is happening right under our noses, and we're not doing anything about it until we see it and we're like, oh my God, where did he learn that? But this is continuous exposure, either through society or on technology platforms. And Joy, we are really dropping the ball when it comes to what's happening with these children.
You know, the misfortune with what came across from that video was you saw a child who was living beyond his years. I mean, the things that that boy was talking about, as an adult, I doubt I would ever say some of the things he was saying to somebody, even in jest, is not something that you joke about. Threatening somebody's life, saying, you know what, wait for the school trip, you will see. Something like that is so out there, and I wish it was far-fetched, but it is not. And that's why your question becomes now very heavy, very poignant. When we're looking at ourselves as a society, what are we doing? Once upon a time, you were everybody's child. I remember when I was growing up, I'd be walking down the road, and if I do something naughty, the lady next door would come and box my ears and tell me, what do you think you're doing? Go home right now. These days, try and even tell somebody, excuse me, lady, your child is stepping on. She'll look at you and, what's your problem? Right. We've come to a place where we want to be individual in everything that we do. But in so doing, you find that one limitation of being one person is that you can only be one place at a time. If you're a single parent, that's why we had an African saying, it takes a village to raise a child. These days, where is the village? The city is full of people, but there's no village. You can be living in these apartment blocks that has got 100 units, and you don't even know the people who live next to you or under you or above you. In fact, somebody was joking that your child can be kidnapped, and they're in the same complex where you're living. They don't even leave the compound, but you will not find them. Why? Because you don't even talk to your neighbors. When I saw that child, that's what I felt. I looked and I thought to myself, that's a child who's bringing himself up. So he's learning from wherever he can learn. And let's go to he has had this talk, because it was very fluent. I mean, it kept flowing. We have a call coming in as well. Let me take that call. We have Susan from Karatina. Good morning, Susan.
Yeah.
Morning, Susan.
Morning.
Susan, what are your questions or comments as far as this particular Consolata, a child story, is concerned?
Hi, Jeff. I'm so surprised that you guys are talking about these kids, The shame comes from above. You have seen our politicians fighting right in front of our eyes on the TVs.
Yes.
Where do you think these kids are learning from? They are learning from those politicians.
Right.
Another thing, we have the issue of dads.
Right.
The dads are not there for their sons. And even when they come in the house, they are ever on their phones. They have no time for these kids. Unakuta mama kila kitu ni yake, from to take care of the kids to everything, and the dads are never there.
Right.
Yeah?
Okay.
The dads have also failed.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Susan. Of course, politicians and dads are right there being the issue. Let me come to Bishop as well, because also the church plays an integral role in this. Sunday school, parenting, all of these things. What's going on, Bishop?
Just like Joy said, when I was growing up, it was very different. We have lost it as a society. Our morals have gone down. Our priorities have changed. I think we are pursuing something that's not right for our future generations. You know, just as Joy said, a child belonged to the community. Like the other day, I was in Kangemi, and I felt so good because I walked down to Bottom Line. I was in a church there, and a few people greeted me. Oh, Bishop Hamala, how are you? How is Kakamega? I felt so good that I was in a society where I live. For a whole month, nobody greets me. I don't even know the immediate neighbor. Right. I don't know where they come from. They don't know. I just see their car. In fact, I know their dog more than I know them. Right. And this is a disaster because we are living in a society whereby we are treating our children as robots. Like you will see a child, as a boy trying to ride on a bicycle, and the bicycle is a three-wheeler. But mommy is following, oh, baby, you're going to fall down. Take care, please, you're going to fall. You know, trying to hold. And Let the boy fall.
Okay, let's just take another call on that. We have Kemboy from Baringo. Good morning, Kemboy.
Good morning to you.
What's your question and comment on this particular issue?
Okay, unajua watoto wa siku hizi mi nalaumu wanasiasa. Ukiona hata wakati wa kupiga kura wako na mwenendo mwingine mpaka watoto wetu wanaita kwa. So tulaumu viongozi kwanza, mimi silaumu kijana kijana mwenye alikuwa jana kwa social media. Mimi nalaumu viongozi wame.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Kemboy. Kemboy saying that it's a leadership issue, viongozi. We also have Joshua from Kirinyaga. Morning, Joshua.
Morning, Jeff.
What's your question or comment on this particular issue?
Now, God bless my land, Kenya, a land of hypocrites, Jeff. Why are people so surprised? Look, I remember last year, but when we were when we were doing elections in Kenya, everybody, the most senior citizens in this country, were hurling insults. The president was insulting Raila. Raila rose back and we popped champagne. Number one. Number two, children are a reflection of our society. Today, Jeff, if you cross a guy on traffic with your car, he will hurl insults at you such that you will even think that they have been rehearsing. But more importantly, let us not always be so surprised that we get such rogue elements in our society, because this is very normal. In a normal human society, there are some good kids, some bad kids, some good citizens, bad citizens, prudent leaders, rogue leaders. So let us not hype this thing about a kid who insulted people. I mean, we had some kids last year, but one having sex in a bus. What's the big deal? Surely, this is normal life. Let's not hype this thing. There is nothing about this kid insulting people. She's a reflection of who we are as a society. Let's verify people who are setting the wrong examples to the kids, and not the kids especially. Okay,
Joshua, thank you so much for that. Let me come to Mr. Omanga as well, because 3 callers and all of them talking about, first of all, society and politicians. Is it such an issue that they are all saying that they're all looking at their queue, and the queue for leadership is coming from these people who make it normal to insult each other, make it normal to fight in public? Is that really where the issue lies, Mr. Omanga?
The issue doesn't lie with the pupil. I think it is the society, and actually, to some extent, the politicians, as they say, because we always see politicians using vulgar language on political platforms in front of their children are watching, and they're in TV, sometimes they're in live shows. So I think it is not really about the cyberbullying aspect, but it demonstrates how weak our social fabric has gone to an extent where a 12-year-old child can use such a strong vulgar language. And I would really plead also on behalf of the child that let the child not be expelled from Consolata School, because this demonstrates how weak even we have lost what we used to call responsible parenting. Sometimes when we were growing up, we had so many programs, responsible parenting, and so many NGOs were into that. I think that is when the advent of social media started coming up. Right. So there are certain NGOs that took it upon themselves to ensure, as we get into this technological era, what would be the role of the parent in terms of ensuring what content get access to their children, more importantly at that younger age. So where I sit, I think it is also, it's the society, it is the politicians, and also the church, you know. Nowadays, you know, when we used to go to church, the sermon will be preceded with a lot of gospel singing, hymns, until when the Bible is read, you live there confessing your sins, and you do not really want to associate with your friend who maybe goes into the village discourse, or you hear they're talking about relationships. You know, those are that's what used to happen. What do you feel is happening now? But nowadays, Bishop Shamala here will tell you, you go to church on Sunday, on Saturday, depending on your faith. Then first of all, you find a program. It used not to be happen like that. Now you go to financial freedom, how to have a good marriage, you know. But nothing talks about how to be pure, how you should be spiritually pure, how you should understand the society, how best can you put your leaders to task, you know. But nowadays it's panda mbegu, panda seedlings, and it is very interesting. Let me finish this in 2 seconds. Yes. No, I visited a church in Western Kenya, surprisingly, and I visited a friend. It's somewhere in Kimilili. Yeah. Then when people were being called to panda the mbegu, the seedlings, then they started with the 500,000, 250, then to 120, and then I saw I'm an advocate for even saying, why is even these people who is not smartly dressed is going for this planting of a seedling of 50,000? Let me also follow. So I thought it is just blessing so that you can live there 50,000 richer or 1 million richer. Right. Never did I know that I will be followed by a phone call almost 3 months later, being reminded that I was blessed in that particular church for a seedling which was worth 50,000. So it can tell you the rot in our churches, and even you can see how the church used to conduct itself and what is happening today. It has been turned into an enterprise.
Okay, let's bring in a man who's wearing both hats in terms of being a politician, as the callers have spoken about there, as they're seeing the example being set, not really good, but also as a man of the cloth, as a bishop. When you look at your church, because you can't speak about what's happening with Kipanda Mbegu, but in your church, what are you doing for, you know, the younger generation, for the children there, to make sure such instances are nipped in the bud?
You know, I as a person within our ministries, the Cornerstone Ministries, we've been able to reach out to children. We've been able to give children a place to live, those who are not fortunate in society. For example, those who don't have parents, those who come from difficult homes. We've been able to give them a place. And the reason why we give them a place, I've been able to build a school, a primary school, you know, from preschool to standard 8. Been able to put in things like tailoring, a small place where they train for tailoring, dressmaking, and also we put in a computer lab where they come in and study. Those are some of the things I've just done away from the normal coming in on Sunday, because I think the youth, we need to interact with the youth. We need to give them an opportunity. And over the years, 20 years plus of my life in ministry, I've invested a lot in children going to school. Young men and young women going to school, going to college, going to university, getting a career, being raised right. So literally I'm a father, not just a father of my own children, but I'm a father of many kids. And because of this is one of the reasons why my constituency saw what I was doing, and they were able to elect me so that I can continue to foster and continue to propagate what I was doing. So in terms of me as a person, I strongly believe that we need to change our way. As much as we are blaming the political leaders, what do they know? What do political leaders know? They only know how to win an election and keep themselves in power. They don't know anything beyond that. So we are seeking guidance from the wrong place. That is not where we need to get guidance. And you don't seek guidance. The politician is not the moral compass of society.
Right. It should be the church.
It should be the church. It should be the father. That father who has sowed a seed there, now I get it from Wakili, a seedling. Right. I didn't know that it can be a seedling. Now we can say seedling. He went and sowed a wild seed, and he has that child there, never meets that child. Men need to man up and take responsibility. Today we have a society whereby when you want to learn the example of what a man is supposed to be, you learn it from your mother. Because your mother is doing what a man is supposed to do, and even doing it much better. Right. So we have a society whereby men have absconded their priestly role, because the man is the priest of the home.
Let me bring Joy in on this as well also, because as we talk about that also, the issue of technology and the fact that even when in a homestead where we have both father and mother, it's actually the gadget that's raising the children. As they are there, they are always either on their phone, we've bought them an iPad, they're on TV, and that's where they're learning all of this, not from either of the parents in the home.
We had a discussion with some parents over the weekend, and we're talking about this very thing that you're saying. And the gentlemen in the group were saying when they were younger, the exposure you had to pornography was somebody sneaking a dirty magazine to school, and all of you over break time, you're hiding in the boys' toilet looking at the pages and giggling. And that was the level of exposure that you had. Once you went home with it, that was it. Our children, on the other hand, don't just have pictures. The pictures move, they talk, they demonstrate what needs to be done. You have access to women across the globe. You go to your YouTube, and you search, there's videos of all manner of things, incest, of gay sex, there's nothing that is fettered anymore. And we're discussing now how technology has become such a big game changer, because for us, you had to wait to be physically present somewhere to get contaminated, quote unquote. But for our children, he'll be sitting right in front of you. And you think you're all WhatsApping and somebody is on cloud 99. We need to come to a place where, as parents, we employ things that help our children. For example, if you're buying them gadgets, link them with your phone. Be able to see what sort of searches your children have. Be techno-savvy. Don't just look at your children as, you know what, he really loves those cartoons. No, be techno-savvy, because I have noticed even for my little one, there's a day she was watching cartoons, and I could hear the old MacDonald, you know, the little children's songs. But when I passed by there, she's watching something called Suicide Squad. And I look, I'm like, people are making cartoons that look like cartoons, but the themes are very adult, and the soundtrack is very deceptive. It's old MacDonald had a farm. So I had to sit down and look at the filters, block channels. You have to be engaged as a parent when it comes to technology. But something else that, this is very controversial, but let me just put it out there. We were disciplined intentionally. When we grew up, discipline was an intentional process. We had boundaries. You knew this is the red line. You cross it, daddy is going to smack you, mommy is going to smack you, teacher is going to smack you. You knew if you don't do this. But our children don't grow up with the same fences, with the same boundaries that we did. Those boundaries looked like they were harsh when we were growing up. But they gave us the perception, we had special awareness of where you exist. You knew you don't cross into your neighbor's territory. You don't cross into societies. We knew how to grow up minding others as well as minding ourselves. Our children, on the other hand, are growing up without any boundaries, or without sufficient boundaries. And that's why children now act out. We've seen in the West, they have led the way, where they've taken out all these fetters. And that when children have no boundaries, have got no structure, that's when he gets up one morning and he's so annoyed and he goes with his father's gun and shoots up his classmates because they made fun of him yesterday. That's why you hear this child threatening death, because they just know how to lash out. So
it's a boundaries issue as well. It is time
we need to come back. Let's relook some of these things. How do we discipline children? Is it time to bring back spanking in schools, in homes, in other places? Is it time to also give carte blanche to other members of society to help us bring up our children? Don't be so sensitive that somebody corrected your child. Who are you to correct my... Just hush up, pick a number, take a seat. Let us help you do what you can't do for yourself.
And let's talk about that, of course, on our final story. Of course, as we end up, we have less than 5 minutes to go on this one, so we'll have to be really brief on our comments. You spoke about education, and let's look at that because it makes the front page of the Daily Nation. Ministry clears the air on grade 3 tests. Lots had been said that it was supposed to be done in a week. It's supposed to start today and end on Friday. The ministry has since cleared the air on that and said it's going to be done through the better part of the term. This term, they're doing English language, they're doing mathematical activities, integrated learning areas. But even as the ministry says this, there's a part of the teachers who are saying that in terms of the NEC portal, they have a timeline as to which they're supposed to upload these particular results. And some of them, even now, as you say, it's all systems go, Mr. Omanga, aren't really sure what they should be doing in this particular space. Are we still playing double speak here? Are we still gambling with this future of our kids? Because lots of questions. If the people who are supposed to be doing the assessment aren't sure how the assessment should be done, therein lies an issue.
I think the issue of timeline should not prevent us from getting it right. I think the issue of timeline is a procedural issue. And more importantly, we must understand, appreciate that the learning process now has to change in terms of ensuring if we are to deal with these issues of exam cheating, where a student commits suicide because somebody was number 1 and is number last and is called from this school and that school, our school is ranked last. I think this is something that we should support as a society. For those teachers, I think where we always get things wrong is because we do not really proceed precede policy issues with a lot of participation and ensuring that even the teachers that were to conduct this exercise, how best are they capacity built? How best have they understood even that process themselves? So I think the issue of monitoring learners' progress is a good concept. I think the ministry should ensure that they do it and they get it right, so that we ensure that we come up even with those who are weaker, on which areas are they stronger, and how best can we ensure that every student and we get the best out of them. So from where I stand, I think I support this process, but let us not be under much pressure of timelines and who should do what. Let us ensure we get it right from the onset, but it's something that we must accept that it is here with us, and we must live with it, and we must ensure we capacity build our teachers and ensure whatever tool they need is made available at their disposal, so that we get this exercise 100% correct.
Okay, Bishop Kamala, let me bring you in this as far as Lurambi is concerned. How is it on the ground in terms of the rollout of this particular assessment?
I was an opponent of the CBC. Yeah, when it began, and in fact, Waziri Amina Mohamed, she was a bit skeptical when she was the Minister of Education, because were we prepared? Were we ready? Because you know, when you formulate policies, policy makers, you know, we have to put in place stakeholders. Education is like our life for this country. You know, we don't want to do things in a hurry to experiment on our children and then kill our education system, because you know, we have to think. We live locally, we live locally, we act locally, but we must think globally in a way that our children that we are raising today will work in Singapore, will work in Chicago, they will work in San Francisco. We are not just raising children that will live in Chisiru or in Shikoti. You know, we are raising children that are going to compete with others. So we have to also make sure that whatever we do, we are not kind of just bullying our way. We are not supposed to bully policies that we formulate and make, and then when we want to implement those policies, we hit a snag. So when, you know, this is confusion, I'm telling you.
What's the sentiment you've gotten from teachers?
Like I run a school, I run a private school that is a project of the church. I'm telling you, we have problems because this exam is coming.
Communicated clearly?
No. I don't agree with it.
So up until now, there are still some issues on the assessment.
The teachers are not even prepared. They are just, this is a trial and error.
Joy, as you can hear, someone who running their own school and still doesn't know which way forward as far as this is concerned. But these are lives at stake. This is a generation that we started a project and now we are trying to figure out how to finish the bridge, and we are way past. We're in the middle of that particular gap. How do we solve this now? The
change is coming, and Bishop better get with the program. This change has arrived. CBC is here to stay. There's no way it is going. And for private schools especially, we need to make extra effort. And I'm saying we because even our church runs a school. We need to make extra effort to to build capacity amongst our teachers, because they're not per se under the, you know, they are BOM teachers. They are registered by TSC, but they are BOM teachers. So when TSC is training its teachers, ours are not being trained. So it means it's up to those of us who are running private schools to take the initiative to make sure we build capacity so we remain competitive.
Right.
But I think I am with Omanga on this one. Because the change is here, let's embrace it. I mean, if we are able to shed the old level system and embrace 844, and we reaped the benefits of 844, and we saw where 844 doesn't work, this, for me, gives me hope that maybe there is something. When I see children working with their hands, you know, doing the sweeping, and it looks ridiculous. But I look and I'm like, you know what? We had a group of socially awkward children who are very good book smarts, but very little in terms of social skills. These little things that I'm seeing children making here, the toy cars and the whatnots, that's what we did when we grew up. We knew how to make toy cars from cartons and wires and what. So if we're giving this back to our children, I'm happy, because it gives the learner confidence. If you can make a toy car, you can dream of being an engineer one day and designing the next car. Right. So CBC is here to stay for the time being anyway. The minister has been very strong about it. I agree, more needs to be done to get stakeholders on board, because it has felt a bit bulldozed. But at the end of the day, if we make learning more learner-centered rather than teacher-centered or grades and, you know, rankings and whatnot, that's why even an exam that takes a longer time, less pressure on the children. Right. As a parent, I'm all behind that, because having sat 844, my A-levels, my O-levels and my KCPE were some of the most stressful times of my life. University was much easier because it is continuous assessment. But kwanza O-levels, was disaster.
So
if we can take that out, I am so happy for the children.
Okay, fantastic. And that's where we're going to leave it as far as our newspaper review is concerned this morning. As always, Charles Omanga, thank you so much for making time this morning. Bishop Kamala.
Thank you.
Welcome to our studio. We hope we'll see you more and more.
Definitely.
Right here.
Definitely.
And of course, take our greetings to the people of Luranga.
I will do so this weekend.
Yes, Asante Sana. Enjoy Mdivo. This is your seat, really.
Yes,
yes. So welcome once again and have a good day. And that's where we leave it as far as our newspaper review is concerned this morning. Keep your tweets coming in at K24TV, and of course the SMS number is 21222. We're going to take a short break. We're back on the other side where we get interactive. This is K24 This Morning.